right, hello everyone. Welcome back to the Hockey in the 313 podcast. This is episode 6 of our podcast. Continuing off of episode 5, as we were mentioning before. Today, some of the things that we're going to go over in today's podcast is we're going to talk about Yzerman and McLellan's press conference on what happened 2 days ago and go over some important notices that went over between our GM and head coach. We'll then follow it up by a new section that Dayton mocked up, ironically enough, called the mock lineups. All 4 of us, Brendan will tap in a couple times here and there to talk about our lineups, but the 4 of us submitted our own lineups of what we think the 2025 Detroit Red Wings will look like. We'll give reasons behind that, so on and so forth. We're going to dedicate a little bit of time to talk about the Griffins playoffs and what happened in Game 1 against the Texas Stars. What can we expect from the Griffins moving forward, and can they make it out of this playoff series being down 1-0? And then finally, we introduced a new section, as I previously mentioned in episode 5. We're dedicating once a month talking about Tigers talk, and this is with Brendan Selke. Brendan Selke will be going over the last 3 series for the Detroit Tigers, including the Astros, the Padres, and the Orioles. He will then go over one notable pitcher and hitter from the Detroit Tigers and talk about them. Just sort of something just to shake things up for the Hockey in the 313 podcast because summer's going to get a little bit bleak. We're going to need some content here and there, and we decided this would be a really cool section for some Tigers fans and Red Wings fans to listen to once we're done talking about the Red Wings for the first portion of the start. So with that being said, guys, welcome to the Hockey in 313 podcast. My name is Brian Donnelly as your host.
Dayton.
I'm Zach.
I'm Keegan.
And I'm Brendan.
All right, guys, so let's dive right deep into everything now. So starting off with the Yzerman-McLellan press conference, I was actually in school when this was going on. I didn't even hear about anything that happened until I opened up Instagram after 6 hour. So I kind of used Dayton, aka Red Wing coverage, story a little bit from some details, and I kind of clicked on some clips that I saw on social media, Red Helen St. James here and there. And with that being said, guys, let's go over the first kind of main thing that I think Yzerman started out with when talking about this rebuild. Yzerman started off saying that we started the rebuild by drafting and developing. We'll continue to do that. Really nothing too much to talk about for this one other than the fact that, this is how Yzerman's MO has been throughout the entire draft. He wants to build and develop his team. He doesn't want to build it through free agency. He doesn't want to rush the process of making this team. And it shows with guys like Seider, Raymond, or developing Casper and Soderblom for a little bit, even Albert Johansson. We got guys like ASP, MBN coming up. So I guess I just kind of want to know your guys' thoughts. Is there anything that you think Yzerman should change about that perspective on how he's taking towards this rebuild, or do you guys feel like he's doing a great job with his perspective on things with the draft?
Well, I don't think he's going to. I don't think he's going to. He'll obviously do his drafting things, but I think he's going to be more aggressive than what he kind of leads on to say. Yeah. So, I don't know. We'll see. I think he'll be aggressive.
Yeah, I think this is the season where he should be more aggressive. And, I think we're at year 9 since we made the playoffs or whatever. Especially with this start so far. And he also said he wanted to go after big guys in free agency. So, I'm really hoping he can finally use it. But he's also making the smart decisions, like we kind of touched about last episode. We're not going to give up a first for like Ryan Donato and or whatever, like a rental or something like that. So, yeah, I can't wait to see what he can do with our assets and what he can bring in.
Me personally, I don't mind, having prospects, but there's a difference between continuing to just do it and being, aggressive or trying to go after those free agents. You saw a little bit of it a couple of years ago, or at least a year ago now, or 2 years ago now, where, we had that, where we got Gossespierre, we got Sprong, we had Fisher, it didn't seem like a lot, but there were, Comfort. Those were guys that pretty, trying to, bolster the team a little bit. So I think
Yeah.
this has to be the year where he kind of has to go for some bigger free agency, especially with who's on the market this year. Um, obviously he in his press conference he wants to be he's going to be aggressive or wants to at least be somewhat aggressive in free agency. I'm hoping it's the year where he's fully aggressive. Obviously, he stated that he's willing to spend the money, whether it's you know $9 million to $13 million. Like he's willing to spend the money to at least improve the team, and whether that may be buyouts, it all depends. But I hope he's aggressive this year, and I think he will be.
No, I agree. I agree with all you guys, but like my big thing is I'm completely fine with the building through the draft. Obviously, I want to go after some big fish. We can go after some big fish, but I don't want to do the let's get Ben Sherrod on a bridge deal or something like that. That we're trying to get the 3 year deal for Ben or something that's like an old guy that gets the 3 year. I would like it's a big fish like Besser, Marner, all these guys that are coming up. I would rather it be that than some like short term deal with an older guy. And I'm completely fine with the building through the draft because if you look at it like a team like Nashville, I mean, look at what Nashville did.
Mm-hmm.
Did not draft whatsoever, and then just went out and got Stamkos and all these guys in free agency, and they were what a bottom 3 team in the league this year. I
I
mean,
think so.
They got
yeah.
screwed.
So I mean,
They couldn't score any goals.
yeah. So I mean, obviously, I know that situation's different than what we're going through, but like, obviously, you have to do both. But if there was a year to go out and get the big fish, I think this is the year, like you guys are all saying. So I definitely agree with that. I'm just saying you should also rely on those prospects and drafting as well because it's a two-way job. You can't go out and do all free agency. You can't also all the way go out and all the way do the draft. I just think the draft is more important than going out and get free agents because like if you look at some of the past big teams in the NHL. I mean, Tampa and Pittsburgh, probably the two last dynasties we've had that have won like multiple cups in a short span in recent memory. I mean, Pittsburgh's main players were guys they drafted. Tampa's main players were guys they drafted. So that's definitely to me is a
Very
bigger
little
key
free
part than the
agents,
big.
but still
Yeah,
key parts.
yeah. No, so like it's just that. So that's I just 100%. I want to go after guys, but I also relying on the draft is huge too, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
That's a very good point, Brendan. I like how you brought that up, that they're Tampa Bay guys or teams like Tampa Bay, teams like Chicago, teams like Pittsburgh, all those guys were built through the draft, whether it was 5 years before, whether it was 10 years before. Prime example is Sidney Crosby. He was drafted 10 years prior, and it took the Penguins 10 years to win the Cup, or maybe even more than that. But ultimately, the point is, like, Yzerman isn't building for this team to make the playoffs. He's building them to make Cup contenders. And I get people can be all mad about they want with how like we haven't made it in 9 years, but like I'd much rather. I get people are be like, well, let's just go to the playoffs just for experience. Well, going to the playoffs means you're either going to play a top team in Toronto or a top team in Washington, where you're maybe going to squeak out a game or two, and you don't really learn it, or else you're just going to get kicked in the can by a top seed. So I think that was a really good point. And I think Zach mentioned something about Nashville. Ironically enough, that's the next quote that I had down for us. I think a very key point in why we didn't make the playoffs this year is because we didn't go after the free agents, but in a good way. Eisman mentioned that last offseason we felt that there were some free agents that their contracts were too big to commit to. Like we mentioned it on the last episode, like guys like Steven Stamkos. I mean, I don't want to tear apart Nashville completely, but they literally signed two. You could maybe make the case for Marchessault if he really did play that bad. I don't think he did, but like guys like Stamkos, guys like um, Brady Shea, like virtually like not noticeable, and Stamkos was always noticeable on Tampa. So even like I mean, as much as I want to rip on them, they're in the playoffs. They're making it to the second round. Like guys like Matt Roy, like I know we all wanted him, but like for a 7 year deal, like sure he's good right now, but like 2 to 3 years down the line, that contract's going to age horribly. So I think that there's definitely some contracts that we missed out on, but it wasn't a lack of trying. Like Yzerman did come out to say like he was going after someone, which was ultimately Stamkos, as we all knew, but just he was not
Mm-hmm.
paying that price tag, which I totally get, and I don't think anyone should doubt what he's doing because of that. I wouldn't want to dedicate myself to a, God forbid, a 8 year contract with some aging vet. Like, I mean, you look at a guy like we'll get into the lineup soon, but like some of us put down Brock Besser or Mitch Marner or Nikolai Ehlers, like guys like that who are either just entering their prime or getting to their prime soon are guys I would much rather pay long-term contracts than a guy like Ben Sherratt, who, yes, when he was traded to Florida at the time, costed the first-round pick, but once we signed him, like the dude was virtually invisible. And then he obviously like he does his part around the defense now. I think he's gotten a little bit better. He still doesn't justify the contract, but it's the same thing with the Cop situation. Like he's a good player to have out on the ice. He's just not worth the contract. So as I mentioned before, like talking about last year's free agency, do you guys believe that that was the right move on just staying put, getting a guy like Tarasenko, who yes wasn't really good this year, but even like a guy like Eric Gustafsson, 2 years, who still isn't great. It's not like we're locked in for 4 years like a Ben Sherratt. So I just kind of want to know, like, what are your guys' thoughts on this?
Well, I remember, I think it was me and you that were watching free agency last year, and um, I think we were linked with Stamkos the whole time. And then,
We were.
um, I guess it's kind of back to the not what you asked, but kind of how I said I think he'll be aggressive because last year he went after somebody like that. Obviously, it didn't work out, but yeah, I don't know.
And the good thing is he like stayed put like after that. Like Nashville swooped in and then he said, no, I don't want to pay any more than what Nashville's paying for. Because previously he did. Like he went out and got a comp for that much. He got a cop for that much. So it's good to see that he's like learning from like these like kind of contracts. Like I mean, again, like Tarasenko probably isn't amazing, but at least it's not a 4 year deal, or like Gustafsson, who for all we know could probably be bought out next season. So just stuff like that I find smart. Um, and I think another point that we have to add is that we had to re-sign Lucas Raymond and Mo Sider. Like we couldn't not throw our money like 7 to 8 mil on one guy who's going to be aging out in a year. So while it was like uneventful for us, I think that there's a reason why he didn't do it, because now it gives us the opportunity with only really re-signing Kane, Soderblom, and Johansson. It gives us a lot of flexibility to go after that big fish or two, you know?
Yeah.
Sorry, one thing I want to also touch on with Nashville, they bringing in all these like mid-30s guys, all these free agents, it kind of didn't let some of their youth get any chances. Like I'm pretty sure Tomasino ended up being traded to Pittsburgh, and then Dante Fabro ended up on waivers, and then Columbus got him, and he turned out to be pretty good for the Blue Jackets. So they didn't let any like chance for their younger guys, and kind of Trotz is kind of paying for it a little bit now. Now they're stuck with these these big contracts, and then so I wonder whoever they draft in the supposedly the top 5, if they'll give them chances as well. But I mean, that also kind of reflects us back to us. Like Casper was able to get in, he played his role, and well, yeah, he was basically the only rookie, I guess, that kind of put in. And I bet Major would have been a mainstay in the lineup if he would have been healthy as well.
Want to add?
Technically, you could consider Evanston a rookie too. So I mean,
Oh yeah,
playing time there too.
So I want to add Nashville to Askarov. They moved Askarov because I think he got pretty frustrated with not having a chance to. So they moved him to San Jose.
Right.
And I mean, obviously he's
they
doing.
signed Saros, that big deal.
Yeah, I mean, it was between one or the other, so they were like in very much win now mode. I think they pulled the trigger too early, and I think that's a big thing of Yzerman, where he learned from his mistakes. He doesn't want to pull the trigger too early on players, so that gives us a chance to still have a chance to win, but still some flexibility, because it's like, oh hey, if you sign this, if you go after this guy instead of the bigger fish, you know, his contract's done in the next. For example, Tarasenko, his contract's up next year. You got more flexibility with the cap because you have like what 5.5 million opening up, so you can go sign that player or bring up somebody and use assets at the trade deadline too. That's could be a thing as well.
Yeah.
Okay, so for the next one, I kind of wanted to jumping into free agency. Eisman mentioned that he was opening to spending 9 to 13 mil in free agency. I was reading an article from Helen St. James. Helen St. James, holy cow. And I think that these quotes nailed down exactly what Yzerman's thinking. Yzerman, when asked about if he was going to be aggressive in free agency this year, Yzerman said, absolutely. We kind of felt like that all along. We're going to look at any good player, any player that can help us in any role. If there's a player worthy of spending whatever amount on that, has an interest in playing in Detroit and fits a need for us, absolutely, we would try to do that. We're in a different stage than we were maybe 5 years ago in that we have a good young nucleus of the team or of players, and if we can add to that with prominent free agents, we'd certainly entertain it. He then, actually, hold up, I forgot to pull it up, my bad. He then said, so maybe I take a different position. Do I see us doing it? Probably not. You have to have reason to believe you get the player when you do the deal. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense to do it. So just kind of his mind, in my opinion, it's his mindset again. Like, you get the player if he fits right. If he doesn't, you don't go after him. Like, it's not just talking about the locker room, too. It's talking about, is it flexible for your cap? Is it flexible for the locker room? Is he going to be a locker room guy? Like, you think about Alex DeBrincat and Patrick Kane. They came in here and everyone loved them. Like, they're the right guys for the locker room. Like, I'm not saying, like, there's anyone on the team that's a locker room cancer, but, like, if you think of previous guys that we brought into this locker room, they all have been positive influences on the team. Like, if we didn't have Kane, God knows how much he'd be talking to Casper and letting him develop, or, like, how good DeBrincat would be doing without him. I mean, obviously we saw it before he got signed last year, but, like, that DeBrincat and Kane combo goes 1-1 together, and, like, Larkin's gotten there, Raymond's gotten there. Like, it's just positive outlooks on the team, and I think Yzerman makes a great point in his quotes here. But I think the most intriguing part is that he is fully confident in being aggressive. Like, the last couple years, he goes, yeah, we'll see. Like, if there's a guy, we'll get him. But, like, this year, he says, absolutely. Like, if he's right for the team and right for what we have in mind, like, yeah, we'll go after him. And like he said, we have a young nucleus of players, like, meaning like Sider, Edvinson, Raymond, Larkin, DeBrincat, like, all those guys are the nucleus of our team. And if you go out and get a guy like Ellers or Besser that pushes you to that next level, why wouldn't you do it? So, thoughts and opinions on that quote?
Yeah, we're going to get Jonathan Taves, and we're going to like it.
Yeah, let's go.
I don't know much for that one, but
I mean,
I feel like you
my
said what you
thinking
said
is that,
previously.
like, years past, as you brought up, Ryan, is like his wording has always been, I don't know, or we'll see, or I'm not going to give you anything because I'm Steve and I have no life apparently and doesn't like emotion or anything like that. But, like, it's just like now he's like, yeah, we're willing to do this and we're willing to do that, and that's something we're not used to, is him going out and saying, I'm going to do something or I'm trying to do something. Usually it's just like a shrug of the shoulders pretty much, and then
We'll see what happens.
Yeah,
like,
we'll see.
That's his MO.
Yeah, so now we're off that, and we're like, okay, we're gonna spend some money, I guess. So, I mean, for me, it's good to see. I like because I think he knows that this is the off season and this is the time period where obviously he doesn't care about fans, like, and their opinions, because it's hard to when you're a GM like that. But he knows the pressure is on him. Like, he knows that this is probably the off season or the time where something needs to happen, or he at least has to make some kind of move, whatever it is. So I think he's now coming out and that as well. And I think I told Dane earlier in the week that I was like, I think Todd is also bringing him out of his shell and bringing that kind of attitude.
Pretty funny.
Oh, absolutely.
Bringing the attitude out of him, and, like, bringing this energy to him that's wildly different than what we've seen in the past years with Steve at the helm.
It's actually funny that you say that, because I just saw this post today and I wanted to make a post on it, but I didn't. So there was some reporter that asked Yzerman, like, something about him being on the hot seat or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
And then Yzerman's response to him was like, I don't really care what you think or something. Like, so he obviously doesn't care what anyone thinks. But
That's kind of Todd mentality right there. And I really liked what you brought up with Steve Yzerman and Todd, like, being intertwined. Like, Newsy was just like that guy who, like, you looked at him, he's just a guy that doesn't bring any energy. And I think that's how Yzerman kind of felt too. So, like, you got Todd McLellan in that locker room, like, tying the locker room together. Not only, like, the players, but, like, management too. Like, he brought a whole new life into this locker room. And
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember who said it. I think it was Brendan Shively in our Danny DeKaiser group chat, who, when I said Todd McLellan seems to be the guy, and he goes, well, he's certainly the guy that'll take us to the playoffs, but will he be the guy to make or take us to the cup, which I think is a valid point. But a lot of the players love Todd. Like Larkins mentioned him before, saying like he's really brought a new like voice to the locker room. Like he's a breath of fresh air from what we had. You see players thrive under him. Like Kane looked like his old self under McLellan. Casper
much
arguably
He
would
was
not
even
be
like back checking a little bit.
yeah.
Kane.
actually playing defense.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Casper would not have been himself if he wasn't with McLellan. Albert Johansson wouldn't have gotten that second pair with Edvinson. Like he's done a lot, and I think if you put more players into that system with McLellan and what he's running, we will thrive. I truly believe it, and we've seen it. Those 2 7-game win streaks, it's there.
Mm-hmm.
I want to add too with kind of going off what Brennan was saying, or yeah, Brennan. I think too, Yzerman, he always has had his own timeline, and he doesn't care, obviously, what people think. But I think the biggest thing is we see this progression of frustration with Yzerman too. It's last year, obviously, he was fine with us missing. I mean, obviously, we were really close, and obviously, he had aspirations for us to make playoffs this year. You saw he was frustrated with the team, and a little bit with the media too when we fired Lalonde, and then obviously in this press conference too, he was heated. There was expectation for this team to make playoffs, and obviously they fell short. And I don't know if this is if we're I'm sure we're just discussing it, but obviously made some remarks about things and players. So there's more expectation in this team than I think because
Yeah.
everybody's like, oh, he doesn't care about the team. He's just wanting to draft and develop all this time. No, he had a plan for this team this year, and they fell short, and that's why we made the coaching change. And obviously,
I remember.
oh,
Well,
sorry.
I'm going to build on something you said. At the deadline, I think when he was talking to the media, he was pretty frustrated then too. I forget what clip it was, but and then he did say during that press conference that he expects the team to be a wild card team this year. And wow,
Yeah, and
I mean,
that
we were
was
fighting.
So yeah, kind of what you guys been saying. I really like the kind of dynamic duo between Steve and McLellan. Me and Dane kind of talked about like there wasn't really any like joint press conferences with Yzerman and Lalonde. And yeah, McLellan brings that energy, and I really liked what he said. We need leaders, not cheerleaders.
oh yeah,
I think that was an awesome quote, and that kind of helps us what we need to do going forward, bring in depth guys. Steve also said like kind of with the roster makeup, we need. I want to say like sandpaper, more like tough. Like he always wanted to say like we wanted to get big, and we're definitely a big team. But yeah, I like the sandpaper part of the game, especially just by watching these playoffs. There's a lot of guys grinding and always trying to get the puck, and puck possession being
which is
important.
Which is very key from McClellan too, because he's very big on like what I've noticed is especially from Lalonde's system, which was more of a dump and chase, and guys float to McClellan's system where, hey, if you want to be successful, you have to dig in the corners. You have to be first to the puck, which is number one in hockey. Always be first to the puck, and that's the mentality this team had ever since they, made that coaching change. And obviously, there's more to come. So I think to kind of building off, I want to say what kind of everybody said is Yzerman and McLellan kind of complement each other, or like McClellan's bringing Yzerman out of his shell too. Because you look at McLellan too, he's making changes to the. I don't know if that's another topic or not, Brian, with like coaching changes a little bit, or like shaking up some of the like the
it was the goalie coach and the video
Oh
coach.
yeah,
video coach, yeah. So I feel like that's a thing where just Todd came in and he's like, listen, like, obviously we got to shake something up, and maybe he was talking to Yzerman about it, and they're just on the same agenda where it's like, hey, something's got to change, but also we want to make the change for the better so that we're striving in the right direction. And I think Yzerman is willing to do what it takes, especially with coaching, with McLellan. Like obviously he brought in Trent Yanni, obviously our other assistant, I forgot his name, but he was there for a little bit with the Lalonde, and that was just purely because, you know,
You mean
he,
Tanguay?
yeah. But he brought in Yanni because he's like, listen, this is my guy. I've coached with him for years. Like bringing him his own staff to where he feels comfortable enough to push his team to be
Mm-hmm.
better. And think I think that's going to be a huge thing this offseason too. Is you know bringing in the right guys to help make this team better, especially in the areas where it's like, hey, film, you gotta point out little specific details that are going to help you win games, or goalie the goalie coach, which has been an issue over the last couple of years, where we've had a lot of inconsistency. And Yzerman had a quote with, "Well, we need our goalies to save the like make saves pretty much."
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a pretty big thing where Yzerman expects more out of our goaltending too. So
Yeah.
I also kind of wished he would touch on, or like I kind of wish he would say like maybe we need to get a little bit more faster, because I feel like Larkin, he's obviously probably the fastest on our team.
he
I
looks
feel like
slow.
Raymond, yeah. I also felt like kind of Raymond's kind of a bit average at skating, and I think Casper's pretty good too. And that's why I kind of said I wish we kind of get more speedy guys, skilled guys in the draft. But I mean, yeah, we got Danielson in the reins and Sandine Pellica, who can move the puck very well. So yeah, I hope we see those guys coming up, and maybe that's something to consider what we do in free agency.
Right.
I mean, everything just. I think it was really. I mean, you could point out so many moments during the season where Steve and everything, like his mood changed. It was obviously a development of the changing, but you can go back to the stupid Blues game that I had to go to in Detroit, where it all probably
Oh yeah.
all the rage probably started for him mostly, even though it was all built up. But like Dane's buddy Andrew, he literally pointed it out. Like he could see Steve up in the gondola
That was
up
pretty
there
funny.
all annoyed. So we all knew. So everybody was all annoyed at that. But when Steve's mad and you can visibly see that Steve is mad, that's when it kind of all just broke down. And now we're at this phase. And I think it's honestly for the better. But
Yeah.
I mean, who knows at this point?
He's
'Cause,
probably showing his true emotions.
yeah.
Okay, so that was kind of a little lengthy topic, but I think it was a good one to address about that. Sorry, got a little sidetracked here. So kind of the next Steve Yzerman quote I want to touch up on here is talking about how we're going to go over a quick these two little blurbs are just what I have because just important. We don't have to talk about them a ton because I think both of them were known. The first one that I have was Yzerman talking about there's been mutual interest between their camp and Kane's camp. Kane is looking to come back to the Red Wings. He feels his family is settled in with Detroit. Cracks the joke that he doesn't want to separate Archie and Trick from each other.
I like that part, yeah.
The Red Wings.
Just it's a breath of fresh air realizing like, hey, there's players that want to come here. Like there's players that want to develop relationships with their families, their kids, like
Well, I got a small thing for that, like about the Kane thing. Like if you have a player like Patrick Kane on your team, I feel like that that'll help like bring in other free agents because they're like, well, you have Patrick Kane on your team, so I don't know.
Exactly. That is a
Greatest American of all time.
But yeah, I mean, not really much to touch up on there. I just thought to put that in there just because it was a smart like little quote, just saying like if there's anyone worried that Kane would be gone next season, don't be. Like Kane loves it here. The Red Wings love having him here. Would not be surprised if he gets a 1 to maybe even 2 year extension with the Red Wings. I hope 2, just so we don't have to keep going down this road. But yeah, so that was just kind of the Kane situation. Again, not really much to touch up on, but I mean, just something very, very important. The last one that I think that, again, maybe not like going full in discussion like the previous ones, but like something that we could note here. No. Is that when someone mentioned to Stevie about Jake Wallman that kind of fiery attitude came out, and Yzerman said, like, here I have it pulled up. Sorry. No, I do not regret trading Wallman. I will not elaborate because I choose not to. There are things I prefer not to share with you. If that's not a Todd mentality, or like that lit something under his ass, I don't know what is. Because like he would not have said that or say that like 2-3 years ago. Like he would have just been like, yeah, no, I don't really want to talk about that. Like, no, he quite literally like slammed back, just saying, I will not talk about it. I will not elaborate it, and I will not share it with you. I feel like that was very interesting. And I think a thing to talk about is that, was there something behind the scenes that we don't know? And the clear answer is yes. Dayton made a funny little post on his Insta story saying if there's anyone worried about if it's because of the gritty, like Kane and Raymond do silly celebrations all the time. Like, unless Yzerman is that uncultured that he doesn't like a gritty.
I'm gonna lose it again. I'm gonna lose it again.
One thing I want to kind of say quickly about our Yzerman is like, as someone who hopefully wants to work for an NHL front office someday, I mean, we're all gonna make mistakes. Like, we can't predict the future of what we're trading. It's just frustrating. We give up an asset in Wallman and then another second round pick, like, for nothing. But also apparently I heard on the 32 Thoughts podcast a while back, Friedman believes that Yzerman moved Wallman to sign like a Stamkos or something quickly, because apparently we had ties or whatever. But I mean,
I think
if
that
there
was
was like a if there was like a behind the scenes thing, that would be kind of
I heard
weird.
I can't remember where I heard it from, but there was something with a disagreement with the coaching
Was it
staff.
with Lalonde?
So with
I thought it was
Lalonde.
assistant coach or
That's
It
a
might have
much
been
better
with
reason than
Lalonde,
him doing
and
the
Yeah.
gritty. I can tell you that.
that I was gonna say, I think that led to him being scratched, because I remember he got healthy too, and he wasn't in the lineup for a bit too. So we're kind of like,
Oh yeah,
what's going
100%.
on? Like
I remember
felt
that,
it kind
yeah.
of weird. I thought like, okay, maybe just they're trying to switch things up, but I'm like, okay, as it kind of went on more in the season, I'm like, okay, game 81, 82, not having a guy like that on in the game, at least, it's like, okay, well, what's going on? Like, there's something that has to be going on behind the scenes, and I think it contributed to probably something with a disagreement with the coaching staff. Obviously, you look at Lalonde, I don't think he knew how to handle a lot of what was going on, especially with the losing streak, and not he was a first year head coach, and there's more buddy buddy with the players. I don't think he really understood how to really handle certain mentalities or certain emotions with players, and he burned some bridges with that, I think.
Yeah, I don't think he was good with the
agreed.
relationship thing. I mean, you could kind of just with the way he talks and the way he acts, I'm sure, he was a great coach and all that and coaching the game of hockey, but his relationship aspect of his coaching is just not
He burned bridges.
there. Like, it's not there compared to, like, if you go Todd, like, they're completely different. And I think that truly matters because, I mean, just it helps your players play better even overall if they see that you have this attitude. I mean, look at Todd's first day and his quote that he made to all the players during that practice. So, I mean,
Play F in hockey.
yeah, so there's all these.
Put on shirt.
At least Lalonde's a good analyst on Sportsnet.
No, I hate hearing your voice.
yeah.
It sounds like a
Uh,
voice.
Sure.
Oh god, yeah.
Oh man.
That gets
All
me.
right, because
I hate
this,
seeing him on national television.
because this was a joint conference between Yzerman and McLellan, I put in a couple McLellan quotes for him here. So just the first one is, I think it was a very good way of addressing like what happened this season. McLellan mentions, like, we were right there. We could have made the playoffs, and it doesn't matter who Steve drops in. The mentality won't change no matter who comes in. When it got shitty for us, we went deeper instead of pulling ourselves out. Very fair assessment. Like, we went on two separate, as I mentioned, 7-game winning streaks and just shit the bed the rest of the time. Like, even if we were to bring in a piece or two, like, yeah, it would have made the team a little better, but like that mentality has to be there. Like, you have to you can't be rewarded for bad behavior is what I'm kind of focusing on here. And like, you can't just expect, oh, we're slumping or we're plateauing right now. Let's go out and get someone. Like, it's up to you to figure out how to get out of that. You're not going to have front office say, like, baby you and say, oh, yeah, well, you guys aren't doing good here. Here's another defenseman, or here's another forward that you can play with. Like, first, like, do your job. Like, don't rely on us to come save your butts. Like, this is a you thing. So I think that's a very good point that McLellan like made, is like, no matter who Yzerman drops in, the mentality won't change. Like, it, it's up to the players. It's not up to Steve Yzerman and McLellan. So again, I think we all were thinking it. Like, we were right there, but just the fact that, I mean, I kind of wrote this down in my notes about how Yzerman mentioned that Montreal and St. Louis didn't do anything and they were in the playoffs. Like, that goes to show there. Like, they did it on their own. Like, they didn't need another piece to go lift themselves up. They built from within. I mean, yeah, they
were riding on momentum and like hot goalies.
They traded for Line early in the season. I mean, given he didn't play much at all, but like, he's still a factor. But like, the emergence of Cole or Lane Hudson, like, stuff like that, like, just, it's got to be from within.
And then
no, it's a mentality change. 100, and I think that's still going on. I mean, obviously, he was only there half a season. I mean, he came right after Christmas, so it was half a season. I think he's still doing it, and I think he was doing it during the season, and he'll be doing it going into next season too. And I think that's what's going to be big this off season. Is we're going to get new players and all these things, and we'll have some rookies come up if ASP gets a chance to play on the NHL. But I think also it's not so much a player change, but also you're changing the mentality of the team as a whole and into a whole new thing, which I think will help in a whole nother way that Todd's going to bring.
And I love what he's bringing. It's a mentality. I mean, his quote pretty much explains it all, where it's like, play effing hockey. Like, you've been doing it your whole lives. And I think it's great to see that a guy or a coach, shows passion, like, hey, you guys are better than what you think you are. And I remember him coming in, and I think I elaborated this on the last pod, but he said, like, these guys aren't conditioned. These guys, they're down in the dumps, and obviously that changed a little bit during the season. But if they come into the season not conditioned and stuff, that's still gonna affect them a lot, and that doesn't help too much. So I think a full off season of McLellan kind of on their ass a little bit, making sure that they're doing the right things, getting in more conditioned. Obviously, we had a lot of more free agents come in, or a couple free agents last year kind of come in. Maybe they get their ground footing, like a Tarasenko gets his ground footing finally. And depending on whatever move, but kind of elaborating on, what Brendan said is, like, you got to build that, and it's going to take an off season to do that, and he's been doing that since he came in, and he's done a tremendous job, especially for us being bottom 5 in the league at Christmas time, and then making our way back up to only being about, I want to say, 2 points out of the 4 points out of the playoffs.
I think in itself. I mean, I don't think people give Todd and I know I don't want to give too much credit because we still missed out on the playoffs, but that change from one of the worst teams in the league to fighting for a playoff spot going into the last month of the season pretty much is kind of
79,
insane.
Pretty much.
Yeah, I mean, I think Dane brought it up one time that we went from, like, I forget what the exact point totals were, but like with Lalone, we were like a bottom team in the league, and then with Todd, we were like a shoe-in playoff team pretty much point wise for pace.
Yeah. I also liked one of Todd's quotes. He said, like, when he first got here, he was like calling people different names, and he kind of expressed that was like the human aspect of being a coach, and like that kind of personal human side, connection.
All right, so we're going to finish off on one last Todd McLellan quote here, and then we got to wrap this section up because we still have a lot more to go. The last one I kind of wanted to address is Todd McLellan standing up for Dylan Larkin. I mean, there was thought to be some, like, back and forth lash between Yzerman and Larkin, with Larkin potentially calling out Yzerman on not getting anyone, and then at the trade deadline, and then Yzerman mentioning that you can't just go out and get anyone that you want just because your team is doing bad. But a silver lining between that is when Yzerman and McLellan were talking about Larkin. McLellan had this very good thing to say. He mentioned Larkin was out in front of the media when others should have answered for their poor performance. So if there's anyone, because I see all the time, and it low-key pisses me off, I see all the time that people should say strip the C from Larkin or like trade Larkin, and like it's just absolute like it's so annoying because
BS.
Larkin
The
is a
worst thing I've
true
heard.
like I don't want to be like a Glazer, but like he is what you look for in a captain. Like
Hmm.
He
as
has
he said,
every
like
right
he
to be
was,
glazed.
huh?
He has every right to be glazed.
Yeah.
Every single right.
Um,
I,
he makes
I
a
remember. Oh, sorry. I remember like one play when Larkin scored. It was assisted by Casper, and like he was the first. He was the first person to go up to Casper, like dab him up. Maybe it was his first goal or something like that. I remember in the season. It's just the little things like that. He shows off his true leadership abilities.
I
He's
think,
yeah.
100% the only guy in this team that should be the captain.
oh,
Hmm.
absolutely.
If like, there's no reason not to be.
I mean, look at who he's under too. I mean, when you're under a guy like Henrik Zetterberg for a little bit of your, even though it wasn't a long time and it was cut short to injury, being under a guy like Henrik Zetterberg and learning from a captain in the NHL, I think that you take on a lot of qualities and you know, I think for him he's the clear cut choice. I think not only from just personality wise, but obviously what he does in the community for the Red Wings. He does a lot of charity work. He does a lot of he
Hmm.
lives here. His family's based here. Can't get any better than that than hometown.
Waterford, Michigan.
Exactly, like just being the hometown boy. Embracing the city. I think that's a big thing, and he's done it. And I think he's carried his load more. He's he's put a lot of weight on his shoulders, especially during this rebuilding phase. Obviously he wasn't the captain through the first year of the Yzerman era, but you could pretty much see, hey, this guy is our captain, this guy is our leader, and I think players rally around him. I think obviously like a lot of these guys are really close to him. Obviously, I know him, Sider, Raymond are really close, and I can only imagine what it's like with having guys like DeBrincat and Kane now kind of U.S. teammates. He played with them before. I think um, it's really special just seeing him do what he's been doing for all of his career, and I mean he'll retire Red Wing. He'll never get traded. He'll always be a part of this team. And for every idiot on Instagram or Twitter saying trade Larkin, this and that,
Hmm.
like he's the heart and soul of this team. He's a leader for like
Yeah, I think he didn't like. I will be honest. The way he went on about his quote, I don't know if I'd go about it the same way. I get what he was saying, and I agree with what he was saying. I don't know if I would go about it the same way and go out of my post game presser and all that. But he has 100% a right to feel like that. I think people
Hmm.
forget he has been on this team the entire way. He was here the last time we made the playoffs, and he's been through the entire rebuild. And I think people forget that like he is literally the only guy, no
with
matter where
playoffs.
you look, that has been through the entire thing. So I feel like people forget that he has been through thick and thin. He's been ups and downs. He was the one guy, the one stable that we've had the entire way through. So
And he
he
is
is
still
100% a way to feel like that. And anybody
Hmm.
that he is not worthy of a captain, not worthy of being on this team or whatever it is just completely out of their minds because that man has just the care and everything
Yeah.
that he shows on the ice, off the ice. I mean, go look back at the clips of even last year or this year. You could see his emotion even on the ice, like those kind of things. I mean, when I think Perron tied it, I think Dane was bringing this up. You could see Dylan Larkin like literally fall to his knees in that Montreal in the last game.
Hmm.
I mean, he takes the care that he shows. Like you don't just fall to your knees because he cares so much for this team and the city and wants to succeed in this. It's just, I mean, that if there's anybody that's worthy to be a captain in the NHL, he is up there as the guy to
agreed.
be. I mean,
Well said. Well said.
yeah, it's just unbelievable that some people think like that, and I know that's how it is. But he is just, I mean, that guy is a Michigan man through and through. I think he well represents the city of Detroit and all of Michigan as a whole. So
All right. So yeah, I liked all your guys' thoughts. You guys made very good points towards all the things that I had put down for our notes for this press conference. So props to you guys. Did go a little overboard, but it's all good. We have a lot of time to go. I mean, honestly, I truly don't mind it. So for the next section, this is the one that I'm very excited about. We're going to be talking about the mock lineups for everyone besides Brendan. Sorry, Brendan. Brendan has his own section, so don't feel upset about it. We have mock lineups for Dayton, Keegan, Zach, and then me, following that order. And Dayton had the great idea of focusing an episode about what we think the team would look like. Now, I kind of gave my mock lineup last week, but I changed a little, one or two things up. We're going to go over some reasons behind why we chose these players. Not go totally in depth because we have to save some of this stuff for the off season. But just a little fun little side tab to focus on. So for Dayton, I'm gonna have Dayton go first. I actually have his lineup pulled up here because, as I mentioned before, I'm fully dedicated to this podcast and I wanted to change things up. So I asked all of them to send me what their mock lineup is so I can take it and turn it into the graphic. So for Dayton's mock lineup has the top line being Nikolai Ehlers, Dylan Larkin, and Lucas Raymond. He then has Patrick Kane, Marco Casper, Alex DeBrincat on the second, with Vladimir Tarasenko, Andrew Kopp, and JT Compher on the third, Elmer Soderblom, Rasmussen, and Mason Appleton on the fourth line.
Michigan legend.
That's probably, I honestly, if there's anyone Steve Yzerman's going to sign, it's a Michigan bottom sixer. So smart by Dayton for that one.
Hey, him and Kopp were both teammates at 1.2. Dynamic duo there.
Well, at Michigan and in Winnipeg too.
Yeah, Winnipeg too.
I don't think Mason Appleton went to Michigan.
I think he did.
I
can look quick. Let's see.
Okay. While Dayton's looking real quick, we'll go over his defense. He put Ben Sherratt and Mo Seider on the top pair. He then put Edvinsson and Dante Fabro with each other. And then he has Albert Johansson with Eric Gustafsson filling in, and then Axel Sandin Pellikka on the right side. You'll notice this for all of ours. We have Talbot and Mrazek as our two goal net minders. So just kind of the questions that I want to ask for Dayton real quick. Why Nikolai Ehlers? Why did we keep Tarasenko? Why Mason Appleton? Why Dante Fabro? And did we trade Justin Hall?
First off, Appleton didn't play for Michigan. He played for Michigan State.
Ah, shoot. I mixed up.
He's off the team. He's off the team.
See, I got to pull up my phone. Nope. Okay. So, I did buy out Hall.
Okay.
Well, I know a lot of people like him and all, but I think it's time to move on.
Red Wing.
Well, and then for I'll read off the contract, so I don't know if you mentioned that. But,
Oh, I didn't. Sorry. I didn't put down any of her contracts, so if you guys want to mention some of that, go for it. Completely fine with me. I just didn't put it down because I didn't have enough room.
well, for Ehlers, apparently people keep saying I'm lowballing him, but I mean, I feel like he's had back-to-back 60-point years and been a bit injury prone, so I feel like it's kind of reasonable. But I gave him 6.875 for 4 years, and my main goal I've told a lot of people is that if they don't sign Marner, I want us to kind of spread the wealth with multiple players. And I feel like Ehlers would be another top six forward. Add to that top six. That's already pretty good. And then you're able to move some guys down for the bottom of six.
Which would totally be fine because having a guy not relying on Tarasenko to play second line minutes here or there, or a guy like Compher, looking at your bottom six right now, I'd fully trust that bottom six with the Tarasenko, Compher, Soderblom, Mraz, and Appleton.
And then
you re-signed Kane and Soderblom, I saw.
Of course. Yep. Kane was 2 years, 5.5. I feel like that's pretty reasonable for him. He was a point per game pace when Todd took over. So, Soderblom, I feel like he played pretty good this year. He can really play anywhere in the lineup,
which is a good thing to have.
Yeah, and for how tall he is, he's got really good hands. So I feel like $2 million is pretty reasonable for him. And I'm guessing you're going to go to Appleton next, so I'll just go to him.
Sorry.
So I was looking at Appleton. I think he had like 30 points this year, or like 29, close to it. So I feel like that'd be a pretty good bottom six guy for 2.5 million, only for a year though. So that might replace like Mott or whoever in the bottom six. I don't know. I feel
Tyler
like
Mott.
Mazer as like an extra forward. Maybe he'll rotate in like with Appleton or with Soderblom. I don't know. Um, I think you mentioned Tarasenko too. Why I kept him. I feel like it was only 1 year, so there's really no point in getting rid of him. But I feel like he'll bounce back. I think Yzerman mentioned it how Tarasenko actually played all of the stats showed, which
I can agree with that.
I agree with a little bit. Yeah, a little
Mhm.
bit. And then the last guy I signed, I believe, like a free agent was
Fabro.
Yeah, I was looking at his analytics yesterday, and I sent it to the group chat, I believe. His analytics are very good. Like, I think he'd be a really good second pairing defenseman. Yeah, I actually at first did consider bringing back Petrie. We all wanted to hear it.
Oh, killed it.
Good old
Only
Jefferson,
1 year deal.
son
So
of Dan.
yeah, I don't know. Fabro would be really good. I feel like a lot of people should watch, like, or just look at his analytics or whatever. But and
That's why I
then
wanted to pick him up on waivers.
Yeah.
Fabro, yeah, me too. I did too. Um, so you stick with the same goalies, but then I have ASP playing in the third pair. I know like someone said this too that they don't think he'll be there because minutes wise,
Peter.
but I'd have him, or I'd have to imagine he'd be on the power play. So I feel like that balance out his minutes, and then obviously I
Yeah.
re-signed Johansson to a 1 year deal for 1.4. Oh yeah, and Fabro was 2 years for 3.7. So
All right.
and then one other thing, I did almost consider trading for Zegras. I can see that. Hey, I can see that.
Jeez.
Mm.
I'm out on that. I am so out on that.
Oh God.
I don't agree with you on that one, Dayton.
That's okay. I've always considered him. So, but yeah, that's my lineup. So
All right, and so that was Dayton's lineup. I think that was a pretty good one. And now we get to one that is definitely gonna have a mixed bag of emotions. Keegan. So we'll go over Keegan's here. Keegan has the top line of Brock Besser, Dylan Larkin, Lucas Raymond on the top line. He then has Alex DeBrincat, Marco Casper, and Patrick Kane on the second line. And here's where it gets a little dicey. He has Brad Marchand on the third line with JT Compher and Tarasenko. He has Elmer Soderblom, Andrew Kopp, and oh my gosh, Amadeus Lombardi on the fourth line. He has Edmondson and Sider on the top pair, Vladislav Gavrikov and Ben Sherratt on the second pair, Eric Gustafsson with Albert Johansson subbing out, and Axel Sandin-Pelka on that third pair, and then again Talbot Mrazek. So for Keegan, why Brock Besser? What are we signing him to? Kane re-signing. For the love of God, why Brad Marchand?
Mm.
What do you see in Amadeus Lombardi that has us bringing him up over a guy like Nate Danielson or Carter Mazer? Gavrikov contract. And yeah, so Besser, Kane contract, Marchand, Soderblom, Lombardi. Oh, and if you bought out Justin Hall.
I did buy out Justin Hall. You look at how he's done this year. Clearly not a type of guy you need on this team defensively and offensively. He provides nothing on both
you got
ends.
PK Subban calling him out.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, when you got PK Subban calling you out like one of the biggest offensive defensemen in the entire world, you have an issue. You have a problem. But so Brock Besser, I signed him to a 7 by 7.8. I feel like that's a pretty reasonable. It's getting close to about the $8 million, price tag, for a guy like that, a guy who can score about 30 to 40 goals a season. I feel like would fit well with a Larkin or Raymond. They've obviously been switching out players this whole season, so they've really been looking for a left winger. I would have loved Marner, but I feel like if the Leafs do go far in this playoffs, which I mean right now it's looking pretty halfway decent for them to go to the second round, I think it's going to be impossible for them to sign him. I think he's going to be a Leaf for his entire career. Resigning Kane, pretty crucial to this team, especially for that second line. I signed him to a 2 by 4.5, including bonuses. So pretty much the same contract he'd be coming down or coming came back with this year. Obviously, everybody hates this one, but Brad Marchand, I signed him to a 2 year, $5.5 million deal.
Putting him in
My
an
reason
insane
that
asylum.
okay, there's a reason behind it. Yzerman talked about wanting depth and wanting guys to be more tough, and I feel like he fits that mold of a guy that's willing to battle in the corners, be a little bit gritty, but also still provides a decent amount of offense and provides a little bit of leadership too. He was the captain for the Bruins for a long time, wore an A for the longest time as well. I feel like that's very crucial to a team that's trying to find an identity, especially in their bottom pairing. He can swap if needed, depending on injuries too. I feel like he's still a reliable guy, and you can use him on the power play net front too. And then
I like what you said there. I actually could see it happening. Now that you bring all that up, like I wouldn't be surprised now.
like it
I
makes
don't want it to
sense.
happen.
Like
though. Brendan
We need
even
more leaders.
mentioned he would literally throw up if Brad Marchand decided by this team, which I agree with him.
I think he
Yeah.
said a
I
little
don't
bit
want.
honest,
I do
I
not
think
want
it's
Brad Marchand in the
I
league.
think I would,
Okay.
I'd be like, okay, and then I would probably lose it inside, and then I think my dad would also like go crazy. I think he would lose his mind, so then that
Okay.
would just be a whole
But-
thing. It would be
But I look at it this way too. Look at it this way. You hate to play against him, but you love to have him on your team.
Yeah.
But hear
Like
me out.
he's
Hear me
one of
out.
those guys.
There is a guy named Austin Watson on our team who
Well,
does
he doesn't have as much offense though.
Okay.
doesn't have as much
Anyway.
offense, but he will drop the gloves if you need to.
Okay. Anyway, JT Comfer,
Yeah, sorry, Keegan.
Sneeko, that's for a third line, and then obviously re-signing Elmer Soderblom. I feel like he showed a lot of promise up this year. Obviously Cop, and then Amos Lombardi. I love the way that he's played in Grand Rapids. Obviously, he did get hurt for a little bit, but during when they were performing at a high level, and even now when they were in a little bit of a slump before the playoffs, he looked really good. His offense, he has really good offensive awareness. He's willing to get in those corners and dig in deep in front of the net to get those goals. And then for extras, I do have Mazer and Watson kind of swapping out, so you could either call them up or have them on the roster. I know I didn't have them here, but Rasmussen, I feel like as much as I love him on the team in general, I feel like at some point, I remember during when we had that coaching change, Yzerman mentioned two names, Veleno and Rasmussen. You saw what happened with Veleno. Obviously, he didn't meet those expectations of what we wanted him to do, especially being on that top line. Didn't do much, and then you look at Rasmussen, where he's been thrown in a bottom pairing role, obviously for his size, for what you want him to bring. You're not utilizing him in front of the net, this and that. And I feel like Soderblom's kind of taken over that spot where it's like he has the offense, he has the size, he does have a little bit of speed to him. So I could see maybe us moving on from a Rasmussen and giving him an opportunity to be a bottom pairing guy or a top six forward somewhere else. And it would suck, but I feel like he's run his course a little bit. I love the guy. He'll always be a Red Wing at heart. Everybody loved, especially with the New Jersey game where he decked Luke Hughes, Jack Hughes, and the photo like that. That's just an iconic photo. But I feel like it's time. I feel like you've given him enough time. What his cap hit is too. You could use that cap hit to get a bottom sixer like a like a Brad Marchand or get a more high impact guy. I feel like that at least for me is one thing I really want more out of this team is more depth scoring and more offense. And I feel like having a guy like Brad Marchand or an Amos Lombardi complements that. And then I did have Elmer, Kopp, and Lombardi on the line. I feel Elmer or Soderblom was a teammate of Lombardi. They did play together really well in Grand Rapids too, so I feel like that's a really good line combination. Um, and then obviously Cider Edvinson, you saw how they played during the end of the season. They started playing together. One of the top pairs in the league, in my opinion. Then I had Sherratt and Gavrikov. I signed him to a 3-year, $6.3 million deal. I feel like that's a decent enough term to give it to a guy who has performed well in LA system. He did play, I think, under McLellan after the trade deadline as well, so he's familiar with how McLellan plays. And then I had Gus and ASP. I feel like they were talking about Gustafson and how the team did miss his presence a little bit on the ice, a little bit offensively. So I feel like he's a guy that can still be impactful. Granted, he might not have the defense, but at the same time, I do give a little bit benefit of the doubt for guys that are coming to a new team, adjusting to all this stuff, and not to mention a lot of these guys too. First time coaching changes mid-season sometimes, so it's definitely a little bit of a switch up for these guys. But then I had ASP and Johansson kind of swapping out here and there. Obviously, we all know what Sandin Pellikka is, his offensive ability. I think his defensive ability is really great too. I think he just needs to adjust to the North American ice a little bit more, which is why I have Johansson back. I'm kind of swapping out them. Two really good guys. I think once they get their footing more, I think it might be Gus and Johansson a little bit more, but we'll see. I expect Pellikka to start in the A. I believe they want him to get his footing in Grand Rapids, get used to the ice, get used to the pacing, and then for goaltending, Talbot, Mrazek. I feel like Mrazek, obviously, welcome back, Mrazek, legend. I think for him, he looked really solid under in the couple games he did play. Talbot, obviously, we know what his status is. The biggest thing is Kosa not up. I remember Yzerman really prefacing that Kosa, he's going to get every opportunity in the world, but he did have a drop off after the All-Star break for the AHL, so they want him to show up a little bit more, improve his play, and then they'll go from there. So I feel like they're going to keep Kosa in the AHL, and they'll go from there with that too.
All right. Well, thank you, Keegan, for your mock lineup. And this is why we did this. This is why we're doing this mock lineup, is because we're having unexpected twists. Like, I like the idea of us, Keegan's idea of us potentially moving on from Rasmussen. Like, that's something that has been brought up. But when push comes to shove, maybe that is something that Yzerman looks at, to maybe bump in a Lombardi or a Mazer or a Danielson to get that extra ice time, or to bring in a guy like Brad Marchand to fulfill the bottom six a little bit more, to possibly play top 6 minutes. We'll get into more about Kosa, about the Griffins playoffs. We'll touch up a little bit on how they're doing with him. I was going to say something about Kosa, but like I said, we're going to save it a little bit. So yeah, that's Keegan's mock lineup. Next, I want to go with Zach's mock lineup. Zach, let me find you. Okay, Zach's mock lineup. He has Alex DeBrincat, Dylan Larkin, and Lucas Raymond on the top line, Brock Besser, Marco Casper, and Patrick Kane on the second line. He then has Anthony Beauvillier, JT Compher, and Craig on the third line. Those who know. Craig Smith. He then has Michael Rasmussen, Andrew Kopp, and Elmer Soderblom on the fourth line. For defense, he has Simon Edmondson, Moritz Seider on the top pair, Vladislav Gavrikov, Sandin Pellikka on the second pair, Ben Sherratt and Albert Johansson on the third pair, and then obviously Talbot and Mrazek between the pipes. So for Zach, why Besser, his contract too. Kane's contract, why Beauvillier, why did we re-sign him? Craig Smith, why did we sign Beauvillier? Why did we re-sign Craig Smith? Why did we sign Gavrikov? And then if you want, throw in the Soderblom and Johansson deal too.
So yeah, I kind of went a little safe with this mock lineup. I ended up with just having a little bit of $3 million left in cap space. So my main idea was to bring in wingers, because I feel like we need more that depth scoring and that offense as well. I've always liked Brock Besser and his story. His dad passed away, and he's been kind of playing for him, and I really liked what he did in the playoffs last year for the Vancouver Canucks. And he also kind of battled through blood clot as well. But I mean, I have him at a little bit of a safe contract, 2 years, 7.8. He's probably going to want more term, maybe more cap. But I also liked what Dane said with Ehlers as well, bringing skill. But I think those two wingers are kind of like young guys that can help bring us some more scoring. I think Besser had like a 50-point season, which is a huge drop off from his production compared to last year. But I feel like we have some good playmakers on this team, especially with Kane. And coming now to Kane a little bit, I only have him at like 4.5, 2 years, and I think we'll throw more bonuses or whatever. But I really hope he finishes his career here in Detroit.
Yeah.
Now touching a little bit on the third line, I have Anthony Beauvillier. Now 3.5 might be a little bit too much of a cap hit. He's having a really good playoffs right now. He currently has like 5 points and 16 hits, as well as like a +4. I know plus minus isn't like not that ideal stat, but I felt like Beauvillier owned us this year, especially that first game against Pittsburgh.
Right.
Of course. He was also playing with Crosby.
Oh yeah. He's been getting a little gritty, and I feel like he can somehow, if he can play on this team, get like 30-ish points. That I think that would be all right. If like a solid consolation prize, if we can't get the other big guys, then I just have Craig Smith resigning. Honestly,
Craig.
Yeah, I honestly
Craig.
maybe switch him with Elmer Soderblom a bit because I felt like he had some good chances once we brought him in, but it just wasn't there. And I feel like he's a good board guy, kind of a gritty player as well.
Yeah.
In that aspect. For the blue line, I like obviously again what Dane said with Fabro. If it's a cheaper option, we could go there. But I really like Gavrikov and his like advanced analytics. I have him at 6.6 on a 4-year deal. Like once again, I don't know about term. I just gave out kind of less as a safety precaution. I know that's not going to happen in real life, but it's a little bit more of a cap increase because I think he's making 5.8 or 5.9 right now.
Yes.
Yeah. So I feel like he would bring in the defense, and I'm hoping Ajo takes another step. He'll probably play on the second pair maybe, and Pelika lower. But I really like if Pelika can bring in that puck moving instinct and that speed as well, along with the offense. Like I think we could ease him into the lineup, and he would help with that power play maybe eventually, depending on if we want to start him in GR or on the main lineup. And then how I kind of got these moves, I traded Tarasenko to Florida because I think he lives there, has a house there, or whatever, and I think he likes it there. I ended up giving up like a third, and St. Louis is 7th or something. Then we ended up getting back a 5th, like kind of just moving these contracts around a little bit. As much as I want Tarasenko to stay, and I think he'd have a better year because he's been snake bitten all year. I just wanted to clear some cap.
So cool.
And I also got rid of. I also got rid of Eric Gustafson. I was up and down with this play all year. Like at points, he brought in some good offense on the power play and some sick passes, but his defense was infuriating me at points. So I ended up trading him back to Chicago with the third, and then us getting a 4th from Ottawa, whoever the Blackhawks have. So and then I also bought out Hall, and I just kind of utilizing our picks, or whatever, clearing cap. For some other guys, I guess we can look at maybe Kuzmenko, but he's playing really good in LA, so I would imagine you want to stay there. Like Yanni Gord, any winger or whatever. But one thing I really think maybe we could do, because someone in the presser mentioned offer sheeting. I guess that's maybe still on the table, but like we only have like one first rounder. I don't know if Steve would do that, but I really like a guy like Marco Rossi, on the Wild, and I've always heard some rumors about him getting traded. I don't know why they want to trade him because I felt like Minnesota trade another young guy who was good in who's Nadinov, who's a good defensive center in his own right. So you know, if we want to go after a young guy or something like that, I think Rossi would be perfect. I don't know about giving him like 7 mil or something, but maybe just to keep in mind. But yeah, this offseason I really hope we focus on depth scoring wingers and getting a guy on defense like maybe Ekblad. But
Yeah,
just that defensive side.
All right. Well, yeah, I think that's. I don't want to sound like a broken record, but another good, like, different viable option from Zach. I like the idea of bringing in Beauvillier. Interesting about bringing Craig Smith back. I don't know if that was just for the memes or you just like how he played.
I mean, if I felt like it could be realistic, once again I'm going through that angle, but like I like the way how he battled through, and I only signed him on a 1-year deal, and I mean I'm hoping he can bring back some scoring touch because his like last good season was in 2022 with the Bruins. I think he had like 36 points. So if he could get 10-ish goals, 20, 30 points somehow, which I doubt, but I don't know. I think maybe he could be a solid, valuable option.
I mean, yeah, whatever happens, happens. I'm not going to rule out anything for all I know. We could bring him back and put him on the top line, and I wouldn't be surprised. So, can't rule out anything with Yzerman or McLellan. If they see it as a fit, they'll keep him around. If they don't, they'll
Trying to
push
be
him
Craig.
away. Yeah, we all need some Craig in our life. Okay, now I'm gonna go over my mock lineup for what I think the Red Wings will look like next year for my team. So for me, I have Nikolai Ehlers, Dylan Larkin, and Lucas Raymond on the top line. Patrick Kane, Marco Kasper, and DeBrincat on the second. Elmer Soderblom, Michael Rasmussen, JT Compher on the third, followed by Tarasenko, Andrew Kopp, and Nate Danielson on the fourth. I then have Simon Edmondson and Mo Seider on the top pair, Albert Johansson and Aaron Ekblad on the second pair, and then Ben Sherratt and Axel Sandin Pellikka on the bottom pair, with Cam Talbot and Peter Mrazek in between the pipes. So for Nikolai Ehlers, I have Nikolai Ehlers signed at a 4-year deal worth $7.125 million. Very specific, but I feel like he's going to be in that $7 million range. 4 years is a good amount of years. I think he did it with Alex DeBrincat, so I wouldn't really rule out a bridge deal with him. Patrick Kane I brought back for a $4.5 million deal for 2 years. A little bit pricey, but I think he kind of deserves it, and it's 2 years because I think his game isn't really slowing down. I mean, it has if you look at like mid-2000s Kane, but if you look at it from 2020's Kane, like it's relatively, you could argue, have gotten better because of that hip surgery. So I think 2 years is little to no risk in my opinion. I think it'll be fine, and even if he does completely fall off the face of the earth, it's a 1-year deal next year. You don't have to worry about it too much, and it's Patrick Kane. I then have Elmer Soderblom, Michael Rasmussen, and JT Compher on the third line. I think this is a very good third line that can go up against any top line. Elmer Soderblom is a big 6'8" forward. Michael Rasmussen is, don't quote me on this, 6'5", maybe 6'4", somewhere around there.
He's
JT Compher, not as tall, but he's a good defensive forward. Vladimir Tarasenko, I originally did have us trading, but I don't think maybe we will. I think we'll give it another go. I do have him on the fourth line, though, just not a lot of scoring or providing scoring depth on the bottom six. And then, I mean, if need be, you put him up with Rasmussen and Compher, or you shift around the bottom six a little more. Andrew Kopp, obviously, I think he's a very viable option to the team. I do have him either at the third or fourth line. Nate Danielson, fourth line right winger. I think that he showed that he could possibly be ready. You ease him into that bottom six lineup. I think out of all the rookies, Nate Danielson, I think, should make a case for making it next year. For Elmer Soderblom, I had a kind of 3-year deal for $1.5 million. He's a very good bottom six forward, as Dayton mentioned. He has great hands. We all seen his goals from the World Juniors. He's very good in the boards with puck battling. He provides a lot of good playmaking abilities in that bottom six, and he's become one of my favorite players for the Red Wings. So for Albert Johansson, I re-signed him to a 2-year deal worth $2 million. Very short-term option, but I mean, you have picks, or you have prospects that are coming up for the Red Wings that, if he's not really reaching what we think that he could be in the future, then we just let him walk after the 2 years. You got guys like Wallander or Shai Buyum coming up that could push a roster spot from him. So yeah, I only have him on a 2-year deal, nothing too big. And then I have Aaron Ekblad. Aaron Ekblad, I have kind of on a shorter term / money deal because of all the suspension not all of the all the things that have been going on with him. I don't think Florida resigns him. I think they keep Sam Bennett over him, and then I think the Red Wings go out and get him for a 3-year deal worth $5.5 million. He is very injury prone, which is my only really big concern. I was going back and forth between him and Gavrikov. Ultimately, I think, you know what, shake it up. Let's throw Aaron Ekblad in there. He could, maybe it's a Florida thing where he's just not getting the right treatment, comes up to Detroit and, plays maybe a full game season or a full 82-game season. I have Ben Sherratt and then Sandin Pellikka. It's a pattern with us putting Sandin Pellikka. I also have him starting out in the AHL. I just feel like it'd be a fun idea to have him on that third pair. And if not, you just sign some bottom sixer for a 1-year league men deal, rotating out with Jeff Petrie if you want to re-sign him. And then finally, obviously, Talbot and Mrazek between the pipes. So with mine, it's just a thing whether you have to get Ehlers, Besser, or Marner as your top guy. And then, I did buy out Justin Hall, and I did buy out Eric Gustafson. Didn't trade either of them, just bought both of them out. Maybe you could trade Gustafson for a 6th-round pick, but I just don't think that the value would be there. So I bought out both of them. Gives us a little more cap flexibility to sign Ekblad. But yeah, so that's my mock lineup. I appreciate all you guys submitting your mock lineups. It's really fun for me to make graphics for this stuff. Like I said, it's a breath of fresh air for just us talking the entire time. So I can make graphics and add it on. So you guys don't have to see us just talking the entire time. I've been marking down whenever we talk about certain things. So if you guys want to jump to either when Dayton's mock lineup is or when Keegan's is, I'll have that available. So yeah, that's our section about the mock lineups for next year and what we think that our team could look like next year. Obviously, with the offseason coming along, we'll go into more detail with that. We'll have a clearer picture of when July 1st comes around and who the Red Wings will sign. I'm going to be up at one of my buddy's places for the 4th of July, so we probably won't have an episode that week. But it should give us plenty of time to sit down and analyze in case oh my gosh, we're recording an episode and then Steve Yzerman signs another guy and we're like, well, shit, now we have to redo this entire lineup. So it gives us that little 4 to 5 day window of okay, well, the moves kind of slowed down and the only relative moves would be a very big trade or a little bottom six / bottom pairing guy. So yeah, we'll go into more detail of that once the summer rolls around and after the draft. But yeah, okay. So we're gonna go over the Griffins a little bit. The Grand Rapids Griffins suffered a terrible loss to the Texas Stars. If I could pull it up real quick, I can do a little bit of scrolling here. The Griffins lost 4-0 to the Texas Stars Tuesday night. 2 goals scored quick on them in the first 5 minutes of the game. Not ideal. Kosa was eventually then pulled, something that we did not want to see. I'm not down and out on him yet, but I feel next season and maybe the season after that is he's got to figure it out. And I'm not so much giving up on him at all. I still think he could be a very good prospect, but because he showed in those 2/3 of the season he's a damn good goalie, but he has to keep that consistency. So I hope he does, but I mean, he's got to have a better game too, or else the Griffins are going to fall 2-0 to the Stars with a chance to lose and go out early.
I think they'll bounce back.
I do think they do too. I think that was a wake-up call for them. What we can expect from the Griffins, it was a very slow start, but I mean, nothing that they can't overcome. Elmer Soderblom's back in the lineup for them. You can expect guys like Shine to come up for them, guys like Tim Gettinger down there, Sheldon Dries, Joe Snively, prospects like Shai Buium, Wallander, ASP, MBN, very good goalies. Although, like I said, he has struggled. Costa has shown flashes of him being a very, very versatile goalie. If not, you can rely on Jack Campbell, who has some good veteran leadership and attributes for the Griffins. So, like Dayton said, I think they bounce back. But honestly, for the Griffins, I don't know what to expect from them. I mean, they could either win or lose, and I just don't have enough info on them to know what happens. I don't have enough info on the Texas Stars either. All that I know that they are a very good team. Brendan Shively mentions that they're a very deep-filled roster. So Griffins just got to come out and play 60 minutes every night and go from there. So yeah, that's just kind of touching upon the Griffins' playoff game against the Texas Stars. We'll peep in once in a while after, talk about them. If they're still in it, then great. If not, it's just a little sidetrack note talking about them. We're going to be rooting for AHL affiliates. We're going to be rooting for MBN and ASP to figure things out. But yeah. All right. So everyone, this now is time for Brendan Selke's Tiger Talk, with talking about the Detroit Tigers, as this is a new section for our podcast to kind of branch out and to talk about the Detroit Tigers and everything Tigers baseball related. So what Brendan will be talking about today, as I mentioned before, he's going to talk over the last 3 series, including the Baltimore Orioles, the San Diego Padres, and the Houston Astros. Yep. I don't know why I was blanking there for a second. He'll then go over one pitcher and one hitter that the Tigers have had that really stand out for the team so far. I can honestly think of a couple names that you might say. But with that being said, Brendan, take it away. This section is all yours. Feel free to talk however you please.
Okay, awesome. So first things first, I would just like to press to everybody that's like watching at home, I'm not a diehard Tigers fan. Obviously, I love the Tigers to death. They're definitely my second favorite team. And, of course, I know their team very well. I mean, me and Dane talk about them all the time. But I am a Cardinals fan at heart just because that's where my mom's from. That's what I grew up being. But that being said, I still know plenty about them, and I still care about them a lot. So, basically, the first thing that I want to say is, like, this is kind of insane, this team, this Tigers team. I mean, I don't think people talk about it enough, but to be what they were last year and struggle at the beginning of the year, and then now, go on that insane run to make the playoffs, and now they're off to best start in franchise history. If you look at it, they're 19 wins in the for the first time before May 1st, franchise history. When you're breaking records, that happened has never happened in franchise history. You know something's going right, whatever it is. So I'm sure all of you guys have watched a couple games or throughout that. It's just cool to see that. But to go into what they've done in their last few series, they're 6-3 going into that Padres, Orioles, and Astros series, only losing one of those series, that Astros series, of course. But that Padres series, I was looking at it, easily could have swept them. But like they got shut out by Nick Pivetta in that second game of the series, and I know Dane was watching that game. He was annoyed by that because I mean Nick Pivetta has kind of come out of. He's been good the past couple of years, but to go into what he's been doing for the Padres at the beginning of the season kind of been insane. So Tigers couldn't get their bats going, but they easily could have swept that series, and things were kind of clicking. And then you go into Baltimore, and I mean, I don't know if you guys have seen how bad Baltimore's been. I know Dane.
Oh, I have seen it.
They don't have any batters struggling with that.
I wouldn't say
no
batters.
pitchers.
I'd say their rotation is terrible.
Yeah, they don't
and
have
their bullpen.
anything.
They got Unc Charlie Morton as like
yeah,
still out going at it.
yeah. Their pitchers are just you don't re-sign Corbin Burns, and it's all went to crap pretty much for them. So that, and they've struggled with Adley and all these things, but get back on track. The Tigers took care of business. I mean, you're at home and you're facing a team that's struggling like that. They went in and kind of just took every game. In the first game, postponed on Friday, and then they played a doubleheader on Saturday. The one thing that I always say in baseball is sweeping a doubleheader is one of the hardest things you can do, just because of the way that it is. You're playing the same team twice in a day. It's not easy. Not to mention it's a whole game plan for your manager to figure out, okay, who do I have available for both these games? Who do I know can pitch in this game? What do I do for the second game once I use all these pitchers? Who's going to be my next guy I call up, since they can extend rosters by one player for the doubleheader? To go in and sweep a team, regardless of who the team is, I don't care if they're playing the Rockies with their 5 wins or if they're playing the best team in the world, sweeping a doubleheader is impressive. So, I mean, to go in and do that and then close out the series on Sunday, absolutely amazing. I mean, that's just an impressive thing to do. And then this Astros series, I know Dane was watching pretty much every game during the week, and I know he was heavily annoyed by some of the games that series, but just because I think you were saying they blew the game in the 6th inning, like 2 back-to-back nights.
Back games, yeah.
Yeah. So, like, that was, I mean, the thing with that, in my opinion at least, is I don't know if you guys want to chirp in here too about what you guys think in this situation, but I know you extremely young team. The pitchers are young. I mean, you think about it, other than really Flaherty, these guys are all 2020 pass, because Flaherty's the only guy I think that has pitched prior to COVID, if I'm not wrong, in that rotation for starting pitchers. I'm almost 100% certain.
Didn't Mize make his debut, I think, in like 2020 or something? Or
I think it was 21, maybe.
I know 21 was my first season as like a full-time starter.
Right.
And as far as I know, Flaherty, Cardinals legend, so 2019 he almost won Cy Young. So that was he's basically the only like savvy veteran, you could say, even though he hasn't even spent that much time in the MLB. So these are young starters you guys have, coming out and pitching these games. And I think that's one thing, is they were blowing the leads in the 6th inning, as Dane said, and like that just shows that they have these starters in, and I trust Hinch in keeping these guys in, but they were kind of, when you try to extend games for these pitchers, sometimes things just get let loose. The offense just can't step up, and then you get to these blown leads, and then it's kind of just in a rough situation. But that kind of things just happen. I mean, young teams, I mean, you have to think about it. The Tigers are extremely young. I mean, you look at the offense, the pitching. I'd have to look, but I don't even know who the oldest guy on that team is now that Maeda's gone, which is the big news of the day. So
probably Glaber.
Yeah.
And he was a free agent this year, so you think the core stone.
Or Margot. But he barely plays. Yes.
Yeah. And you have the core stones of Schoolboy and all this stuff. Your key players are super young guys that have not played much time in the MLB. So like little losses that are this annoying happens to every team, but it's going to probably happen a little more to a team like the Tigers, even for how good they are, just because of those kind of things. You have a young team, you have a young pitching staff, a younger bullpen. Obviously, it's hard to have a consistent bullpen in the MLB, so that kind of thing. So you're going to blow little leads there, here and there, but overall, the 6-3, going 6-3 and winning 2 out of 3 series in a 2-week stretch, pretty much, is, if you do that the rest of the season, you're a shoo-in for the playoffs, and you're one of the hottest teams in the MLB basically the entire season. So, not to mention beating that Padres team in a series. I mean, that Padres team was one of the best teams in the league to start the season. So, take care of business at home is always an impressive thing to do. And tonight, I know they play tonight, but if they get a win tonight, they'll be the 3rd team in the MLB to reach 20 wins and the 1st team in the AL. So, I mean, for a team that's this young to be kind of taking care of business on their side of the world is kind of the right thing they have to do. So I think they're on the right track, and I think you guys would agree with me on that for early season starts. Because I will say I've not sat in and watched a ton of Tigers games, but I know Dane has, and I know Zach has tuned in for a couple things as well. So I don't know about Brian or Keegan because I don't talk to you guys as much.
I do pay attention to the Tigers.
I also pay.
Love how they're playing right now.
I don't want to sound like a fair weather fan, but like even like last year, like I paid a good amount of attention. But this year, like I've been fully like involved with everything that the Tigers have been doing. I've gotten to know like some of the baseball statistics a lot more. I've gotten to like look into the prospect pools or farm systems for each of the teams. I've gotten to like know some of the players better. Like I recognize like, oh yeah, this guy plays for the Cubs or this guy plays for the Reds a lot more. So I'm definitely, I don't want to sound like I'm tooting my own horn, but I'm definitely proud of myself because like if 3 years ago I would not. What?
I've noticed you like what is it? Like, I don't know. If you want to say like getting more into it or paying more attention, I guess,
Mm,
to like
Yeah.
really like any sport. Like you talk about the NBA and the Tigers all the time now.
mhm.
No, but
Sorry.
that's what good baseball does for you.
Mhm. Also, yeah, me, Brendan, Dayton, we fiend MLB The Show. So that's one reason why I really want to watch baseball again, because they do the live series or whatever.
Yeah.
So I really want to see like who's the top guys and all that, and once again also get back into some stats because I always forget some stats in MLB, which means that they're good and which means that they're bad. So I keep fluctuating through that, but yeah.
No, but 100%. To speak on good hitters, and who could be going up, and MLB The Show roster update on Friday. I'm just saying, 100% guaranteed for my hitter. It's going to be Zach McKinstry. That guy has been absolutely insane. I mean, just to think about what I was kind of thinking myself earlier today while I was looking over Zach McKinstry is kind of like Soto right now that can't hit for power. The guy
Oh
has
yeah.
bat to ball skills and can work basically any count. I mean, he has an 887 OPS, which, if you don't know OPS, it's on base plus slug. It's just basic, is probably to me the best way to judge a hitter. So anything over 700 is basically league average. The league average for the past couple of years has been around 715, 720 ish. So if you're over 700, you're basically an above average hitter. And if you're hitting 887, you're obviously one of the better hitters in the league. And I know it's early, but like to go out and do that is kind of impressive. He's batting 323. He's got a 414 on base and then a 473 slug. Obviously, with a little bit of a smaller difference in the on base and slug, he's not really hitting for a ton of power, only having one home run on the season. But he's getting on base and he's doing the right things, especially for where he's mainly been slotted in the lineup. Seeing he's mainly played a little bit in the middle of the order. Sometimes he's batted third. I know he's had a few games where he let off. So I mean, that's the kind of hitter that you need, a guy that can get on base and start rallies. But even say like he's top 5 in both on base and batting average in the AL, and then 11th in OPS. So this is probably as hot as Torkelson has been. McKinstry has probably been just as hot or hotter in some different ways too. So I mean, that's just impressive in its way. And then another thing that I think he does well that I think deserves to get mentioned because it's a hard thing to do in the MLB is against left-handed pitchers. He's insane, and he's a lefty. So you're going out here and you're batting against the same-sided pitcher, and he has a 1,000 OPS, and it's unlimited ABs because he hasn't faced a ton of lefties just because of what fallen against the Tigers. But he has 30 ABs and he has a 1,000 OPS. I mean, a 1,000 OPS has only happened like 30 times, I think, in a season. So if he's doing that against the same side, I mean, it's kind of just and shows you how great he's been. And it's weird because this guy, if you look back on his stats and that kind of thing, he's never been that guy hitting. I mean, you look at it, he's been a pretty solid defender his entire career when he played for the Dodgers and the Cubs. But he's never really had the bat of all bats like he's having right now. And for him to come out of the beginning of the season and start doing this is really good for the Tigers because that was the one thing last year is everybody knew they had the pitching, at least going into it, is the playoffs and all that stuff. They had the pitching, but do they have the bats to keep up and that kind of thing? And if McKinstry can keep doing this, and I know he's not going to lead you guys into being a great team in 5 years and be a dynasty or whatever because he's already 30 and all that, but he is a guy that can show other players these kind of things, and him to be able to do this can get you wins right now, and that's a very important thing. And speaking to defenders, just because I want to talk about it, Javier Baez playing center field.
That catch the other day,
and
that was awesome.
Yeah, I know he's adjusted well, and obviously I'm not surprised by that. He was a Gold Glove shortstop. Usually, if you're a shortstop, you can basically play anywhere on the field. So him being able to do that is not a surprise to me. But he's been great out there, and he's been a quite serviceable hitter so far to start the season too. So that's another guy that has been at least half decent. I know they're paying him $25 million to go out there, which is a lot. But like for how bad he's been in the past couple of years for the Tigers, it's glad to see that he's been able to at least get on base to do something for the team. I don't know how it'll keep up because if you look at his underlying stats and that kind of thing with his advanced metrics, it's not pretty. But right now he's a singles machine and kind of just getting on base. And if that's what you get out of him after how bad he's been for the past couple seasons with the Jets, I think that's going to be a big
that Moneyball mentality.
Yes, 100% that on base percentage. It's just it's probably good to see. And then one last thing with hitters, and then I'll move on to my pitchers, and then you guys can bring up anything as well. Uh, I have Riley Green because I wanted to talk about him, and then if you guys have any other hitters that you want to mention too that you guys have seen, feel free. But Riley Green, I wanted to bring him up because he's got a lot of hatred and annoyance by the fans, just because
Dayton.
Dane especially has been hating on him 24/7.
I don't know what this guy is tripping.
So he was really bad to start the year, and he was really bad to start April. Just overall, he's got a 261 batting average, and he's only got a 756 OPS throughout the entire season. And I'm sure if you took away the last week and a half, it would be horrible, and he would look like one of the worst hitters on the planet, which sucks. But like that's kind of just how it goes. I was telling Dane, I don't know, it was probably last week, that it's the beginning of the season. It's hard to judge some of these guys because you never know how their spring went. You never know what they could be dealing with on a. So I think sometimes it takes longer for some guys to get into the swing of things. And right now, I know he's on a tear. At least in his last 7 games here, he's batting .407 and has a 1,200 OPS. I know that's a weekly game with small sample size, but if you go back 15 games, he has an 800 OPS and he's batting .288. So things are on the right track with him, which is good to see because if he's not clicking, that's not going to be good for the Tigers. And I'm sure, as you've all seen, because he's a big piece of the lineup. Especially with what he can bring, because you have a guy like Kerry Carpenter. Obviously, he hits for power, but you need that Green in your lineup where you get the bat to ball skills, all these things, the doubles, being able to get on base in front of the guys like Kerry Carpenter. I'm hoping that the one thing that I'm hoping for is that he's had a bit of a strikeout issue, majorly. I know Dane has always that was his main complaint, was this guy was coming up to the plate and like striking out like every single time he came up there, just looking like Javier Baez in his prime right there. But it's slowed down a little bit lately. The weird thing is like that kind of thing happens with everybody. Green throughout his career has not been entirely like that, so hopefully he can get back on track. And obviously he's been good at the other things in baseball, so he's still been a serviceable fielder. He's still a good base runner, so I'm not too worried about him. Do you guys have anybody else that you have seen, hitting wise for the Tigers?
Well, I think we talked about it earlier. We're talking about Dingler.
Oh
He's,
yeah.
he's actually been pretty good, but I didn't realize how much he struck out. And I watched most of the games. I don't know. I surprised I never realized that. But last year he really sucked when he got called up. But we'll see how long he keeps this going for. So
Yeah, prospect is weird.
Oh, sorry.
Continue.
Just briefly, the obvious is Torque. I'm glad he's found a step in the lineup, especially coming from former first overall, and I think he had a high OPS. I don't know the exact stats on him. Brendan, you said his baseball savant had a lot of red, which is good. He was barreling up pitches. Yeah. And I think the only thing you need to work on was kind of whiffing, but he's been kind of a power hitter, and I think that's tend to happen. I'm not too sure on that, but yeah. Anyways, it's good to see Torque bringing in the power.
No, but yeah, Dingler. I'm not too. He's young. He's gonna strike out. I mean, that's how everybody is to start their career. So, I mean, very rarely do you have like the Bryce Harpers and the Mike Trouts that as soon as they get into the majors, they're amazing hitters. He's probably gonna go a little bit of a slump, but right now he's still hitting amazing. It's just like once those MLB pitchers adjust and figure him out, they'll probably start to figure out ways to get him out, and he'll have to make a adjustment. But luckily, he'll be able to do it in the majors because, I mean, the way he's already proven himself. So, and then as you were saying about Torque, I mean, insane. I'm gonna be honest. I was a big Torque supporter. I always was trying to tell Dane last year, and then Peter, who hates him so much and won't admit that he was hating on him so much. But all this is like, stay with them. Like his career was already off to a rocky start. I don't think Avila should have made the decision, and then before the whole management change happened with the Tigers to call him up as soon as they did. Yeah, I think they rushed him a little, so I don't think that helped him. And then last year was obviously really rough, but this year he looks great. I mean, if he keeps up what he's doing, he's going to hit probably near 40 home runs, and he might only bat 240, but he's going to have 40 home runs. So, I mean, that's a power hitter for you, and that's everything you've ever wanted with Torque, and what do you want out of a first overall pick? So it's good to see for him. Obviously, you spoke on his whiffing. That's probably going to stay. I don't see a way that it doesn't just because of the way he plays. I don't know if he's ever going to develop the bat to ball skills like a guy like Green has or one of the top hitters in the MLB may have, but kind of just because that's his MO is kind of just power and getting doubles and home runs and, the slugging. So that's probably just going to stay. But the rest of it, if you go look at his Savant page, if you take the time to go look into that, and if you guys ever want to go do that, it's all red. I mean, that's what you want to see in everything that he does. So it's good to see that he's back on track because the Tigers need that kind of power hitter. The depth in the lineup has been much better this year than has been in years past, at least to start. So hopefully that stays on the right arc because it's probably not going to be for the whole season, but there would be times where it struggles. But the depth right now looks great, and if they can keep that up, we know how scary the pitching is from last year, and then how good Scooble is. You just need a half decent lineup in the playoffs to get hot, and if you have that good of pitching, they'll go far. So the offense I'm not entirely worried about, and obviously I love what I'm seeing out of McKinstry, Torque, all these guys. So, and even then, you could say Glaber hasn't been what he could honestly hit his ceiling as. So if he gets to his ceiling, who knows what that offense could look like because Glaber did some crazy things while he was in part of the Yankees. So, if he go back to his Yankees form just for like any bit of time, for like even a couple months, that offense could be insane. So it has a very high ceiling. Obviously, it might have a couple lows just because it's a young team, but the ceiling for this offense and for the rest of the year and years to come is kind of just insane to look at. Do you guys have anything else about the offense?
No.
Okay, so I'll move on to my run pitcher, and then if you guys have anybody that you want to mention in the bullpen or starting rotation, feel free. So my one guy that I wanted to talk about, I was discussing with Dane. I was like, I'm either going to go Reese Olson or Casey Mize, and I ended up with Casey Mize just because of his development and then also his injury problems and all these things. But rose to the point. I think first things first is his injuries in his past just need to be talked about first. He obviously went through Tommy John in 2022, began the season, and then he missed the rest of 2022 and then all of 2023. And then last year he came back from Tommy John and then ended up missing some time that season because of a hamstring injury that he had. So he's dealt with injuries. I think that's one of the reasons that some fans in the fan base have kind of given up on him before the season, or are a bit worried about what he was going to do to this year just because of the injury issues. And he's never, even in 2021 when he played a full season, his stats weren't all that great. He wasn't entirely perfect. Obviously that was his first major league season, so for the season he had, it was definitely decent enough, but some fans definitely gave up on him a little bit. And I think it's good to talk about him because he has been on fire to start the year and been the best pitchers out of that amazing rotation that the Tigers have built. But if you look at his Savant page, which I'll bring up constantly every time I do this, because Savant pages, I'm telling you, are the way to go for judging baseball.
Oh, yeah.
So it's beautiful. I love it. There's little things that I'm worried about that I'll bring up, but overall, he's great, and I do think he will be solid the rest of the year. He might have hit a couple bumps, but just because he is a ground ball pitcher. But one of the things that I think that he's definitely been working on, at least this year, he's changed his pitch arsenal actually. So it's kind of interesting. I was looking back at it because I was talking to Dane a couple hours before this while I was doing the research and all that his split finger has been, the usage by year, if you go look at 2021 when his first full year starting, he only used it 13% of the time. And you go back to last year, he used it 18% of the time. And this year so far in his minimal 30 innings pitch, he's used it 27% of the time. So he's continued to develop that pitch and now uses it as one of his key pitches. Obviously, it's been pretty good if he's using it that much. It's going to be another pitch that helps induce weak contact and can even strike a couple batters out. It especially helps from the that left side for the hitters. It's a hard pitch to recognize if you're a left-handed batter. So that's his main thing, I think, has been that split finger usage this year has gone up entirely a lot. Another thing that I've noticed with him and his new pitch arsenal kind of from this year is that he's reduced using his slider a lot. His first year is up to 30%, and then 2024 he had 26%. He's dropped that all the way down to 12% this year. So he's kind of getting away from his slider, which will bring up another point of him trying to develop this slurve that he's actually kind of been working on the past couple of years. He did not have it in 2021, but he's continued to use it in 2024 a little. It had roughly about 15% usage in 2024, and now he's moved it up kind of as his third pitch. He uses it quite often. But like the thing with the slurve is it's not entirely developed. You can kind of tell because he's mainly used it a lot and it's kind of been hit around. It's a little bit more. It's probably his second pitch that's been hit around a lot. But if he can use the development of that slurve as his third pitch, it's a great pitch to get righties out because obviously it's breaking away from righties. It's what a slurve does. But it'd be a great pitch to strike batters out, which is going to be key if he wants to develop even further, especially with the new era of baseball that has gone away from ground ball pitchers and now leaning towards more strikeout pitchers. So that development of the slurve will be key for him in his future. But if he can continue to use that, it'll probably up his strikeout numbers, which will entirely up his ERA and all that, and make him a complete pitcher. So it's kind of been good to see that he's been developing just another pitch. And he's still a young guy. You have to think this is only basically his third season. And he's only played like one full year basically with all of his injuries. So if he can stay healthy and continue being, I could physically see him. Probably not this year just because he's still developing pitches. He might finish out with like a 3.5 ERA this year. But if you go into next year and he can develop that slurve, he could turn into a Cy Young level pitcher if he gets his slurve developed and can strike out some guys. That's truly the potential I see with Casey Mize.
Wow. It's a lot.
Yeah, it is because I truly think that he is I think that if you go based on the rotation, Flaherty's probably not going to be there after either this year or further, just for the dynasty wise. If we're thinking that the Tigers will willingly build a dynasty, because I could see it, it will be Mize and it will be Skubal and it'll probably be Job too. This guy I think will be three-headed monster. So I mean, I literally think that they could build. If it comes to be where max potential, they could have 3 Cy Young guys in their top 3. Obviously, it probably won't pan out like that because that's very hard. Obviously, the Tigers kind of done it before with Scherzer and Verlander, and they had worked Porcello and all those guys, Anibal Sanchez for that one year where they had that insane rotation. This could legitimately develop into that, and I could see it just because of the already way that it's panned out. And you've already looked at some of the stats this year where all 5 of their guys have been dominating. This rotation could be one of the best if they can somehow hold this type of rotation in for the next few years, one of the best that you could see in the major leagues for years to come.
Brendan, I thank you for coming out on your section for this week. We'll have you back in maybe 3-4 weeks in the next Tiger Talk section, for where you can discuss more things about the next series that the Tigers go through. I know we're at the Angels right now. I just checked; we're down 1-0. So we'll have you connect on that, and then we'll have you discuss more things. Maybe Tort gets hot again, or maybe Riley Green starts picking things up back where he was at the start of the season. Just more updates just on that stuff. But again, I thank you for the section, and it's a breath of fresh air from talking about hockey during the off season.
Nope.
All right. With that being said, guys, that'll do it for episode 6 of the Hockey in the 313 podcast. We appreciate you guys listening. We'll be back for episode 7. I'll start planning that out soon. But before then, take some time to edit this real quick. Cut out a couple clips from originally or in our sections and in the Tiger Talk, just so it's very clean and the points get across for everything. Yeah, I'll have that episode out maybe in the next 2 days, possibly. It takes a little bit of editing and uploading to do so. So obviously me and Dayton will have the post out whenever we need it to be. But yeah, until then, guys, Keegan, Zach, Dayton, and Brendan, thank you guys for joining me on the show today. And as always, guys, thank you for listening to the Hockey in the 313 podcast. Love and all, go Red Wings, and we'll see you guys in the next episode.
Mm-hmm.